Today is the 1st of August. We're on session 3 of Journey of Self-Discovery. Do we want to wait for anyone? Can we start? 2, 4, 6. I usually wait for at least 2/3 of the class.
I'm sorry.
No, there's a step. There's a step. You heard?
No, fine, thank you. And I'm sorry for being late.
I just started it just began. Journey of Self-Discovery, Day 3. So today is Who Am I? The question today. So Day 1 we did Search for Happiness, right? And the conclusion of that class was our connection to that Supreme Person will really bring about that key to happiness. And the key is with a certain person. We have to know who that person is. Does he exist? How do I get knowledge about him? Right? So 2 answers from Day 2 that we took home was that yes, God does exist. There's a proof for it too, that is See Lord. Remember? Good. So see, after See Lord, we had a proper pinpoint definition of God. That is Spice. He's the supreme source. He has to be the supreme source. He has to be the supreme proprietor. He has to be supremely independent, the supreme controller, and the supreme enjoyer. Right? After the entire definition, the next thing was how do I get knowledge about God? 3 ways to get knowledge: Pratyaksh Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman. That is direct perception through whatever senses that I have. Though the senses are defective, right? They have a tendency to get illusioned, to make mistakes. And to clear the mistakes or to cover the mistakes, what do? Cheat. Right? So because of all these propensities, it's difficult for direct perception to work in practicality. The next was Anuman Praman, theories, or trial and error, which is again not a very full-fledged process or not even a scientific process to find God. The last was Shabda Praman. That's what we're going to start with today. Why put faith in scriptures is the first part of our class. It's part 1. Part 2, we come to the question, who am I? Again, we follow 3 ways of finding that out. And then we have how many bodies do we have? And since we're learning a scientific thing, we again are going to have scientific proof on existence of the soul. And the last is few FAQs, frequently asked questions. As usual. Same thing is here. Why put faith in scriptures? Who am I? What is the proof of the existence of the soul? How many bodies do we have? And FAQs about the soul. Right? This is the entire 5-session thing which I am putting up here. Then again and again we will quickly revise. 12 o'clock Shruti has to remind me for the break.
12:15. I'll give you 15 minutes extension.
Right? Why do we believe in scriptures? This is where we left off last time, because of map. Because scriptures are like a map. If I have to know where I am in a new city, I need to have a map. Where M stands for it being a manual. A manual makes something which has to work. If it doesn't work, then it's not a manual. Is that okay? If it works, and what is the statement in the Vedas? If any single statement or sentence in the Vedas is proved to be wrong or contradictory, what happens? You can abandon the entire system of Vedas. Yeah, this is the what do you say? Authenticity.
Who has written the Vedas? Is that one person has written the Vedas, or like there are so many Vedas, so different people have written different Vedas?
I'll tell you exactly from the Vedas, because I'll tell you from Bhagwate Gita. In Bhagwate Gita, 4th chapter, verse number 2. Verse number 2. Evam parampara. Yeah. That verse, Krishna speaks about the history of Bhagwate Gita. He says to Arjun, is there that this knowledge that I'm giving you right now, I won't tell you entire Sanskrit shloka, evam parampara praptam, imam rajarshayo viduhu, sakala neha mata yogo nashta parantapa. The first verse he says that what I'm speaking to you now, Arjun, I had spoken absolutely the same thing, the same knowledge, millions of years back to Sun God. Sun God is Surya Dev, his name is Vivaswan. Like how the name of our president is Pratibha Patil. I was going to say APJ Abdul Kalam. Yeah?
Now it's the new
I'm sorry, that's just a few days back. Yeah. My apologies. Yeah, I was still not got the change yet. Right? So then, is it changing? Is president name of the person? So Surya Dev is not the name of the person. His name is Vivaswan. Vivaswan gave it to his son Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku gave it to his son Manu. So in this way, through disciplic succession, is how the Vedas are being passed down. In earlier times, they did not need to be written down. Why?
They should learn it.
Memory was that sharp. There's a word called Shrutidhar. You know what's Shrutidhar?
I don't know Shrutidhar, but I know the meaning of Shruti, year of the Vedas.
Yeah, it's like you have to hear. Shruti has, the Vedas have two sections in broad. Shruti section and Smriti section. Smriti section means one which needs to be memorized, and Shruti section is one which needs to be heard. So in those times, people were so brilliant, or their memory capacity was so much that they just need to hear it once. That is Shruti Dhar, means they hear the knowledge and it is Dhar, or it is, encapsulated. It's understood properly. Just hearing it once. So it need not be written down.
And they won't lose the meaning in translation, like how we lose meaning in translation these days. So they wouldn't.
How is it? It's a manual. If you lose it in translation,
it's a manual, right?
It's a manual. If you lose it in translation, means it's not working. If it's not working, then it's something's wrong with the manual. I have to go to the manufacturer. Right? So what does a manual mean? It has to work for everybody, not just for a particular sect of people. Bible can work for us also. If you actually read, we'll be doing that in the fourth session. That's the next session to come. Why there are differences in scriptures. If scriptures have been given by God, like the manual is not written by someone, it's written by the original manufacturer. It comes with the product. So Vedas, when the Lord created this entire universe, He sent it along with that. He gave it orally to the leaders of the society, and then it was passed down to everyone that way. So Vedas were handwritten only 5,000 years back. But the very Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita itself says what is the history of it? The dawn of creation. Exactly of that I'll be doing more elaborately in the fourth session. Why dawn of creation and how it's come to others in another name, in another form or whatever. Axiomatic truth means they're axioms. You have to try it to prove it. And the last is astonishing predictions. If apparently, even if you take the history or if you take like the scientific proof of the Vedas is the handwritten manuscripts, which was 5,000 years old. But there are predictions which were later proven to be absolutely accurate. So this holds Vedas to be, correct. Yeah, correct and factual and absolutely the right things have been happened later. So if we take the basis, or if I say that if we put faith in scriptures, we will get knowledge about God. So the first question we start this class, the manual, axiomatic truth and astonishing prediction of the scriptures. Right? Why should we put our faith in the scriptures? Somehow we've been brought up in a way that we don't, at least me, I studied in a convent school, where I was taught that scriptures and all these is mythology. In fact, even Hindu mythology or mythological stories, even people who are coming from a religious Hindu background, they say this word, mythology. Mythology comes from the word myth. Myth means
Which is not really
not real. It's make believe. It's imagination. These stories are there only for some moral support to the society, moral boost. They didn't really happen. This is what they say. How do I put my faith in scriptures? The fact is, no one can live their life without faith. Remember the last question that my trainer asked you? I think Sangeeta, you left. Your name is Sangeeta.
Neela.
Your name is Neela. Sorry. Sangeeta is Oh, you're Sangeeta.
Yeah.
I thought she's Neela and you're Sangeeta. Okay, sorry.
I'm Neela and my friend is Rekha. I think she's
Rekha Mehta, I remember. Yeah. So, where was I? Yeah, about faith. Can we get up the next, or can we plan for tomorrow unless I have faith that I'm going to be awake next morning? I have the faith, right? Yeah, we will plan anyway, thinking that, tomorrow I'm going to live. When Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked this question by a Yaksha, he was taking care of the pond and everybody wanted to drink water from that pond, and they had to ask certain questions which only Yudhishthir could answer finally. And what did Yudhishthir Maharaj say? There were a lot of questions. There were about 8 questions, if I'm not mistaken. In one of those questions was, what is the most wonderful thing in this world? And what did he answer? Not the 7 wonders that humans have created, not the Great Wall of China, not Taj Mahal. It wasn't there that time. And what did he say? He said, Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti yamalayam. He said that every single day, there are so many living entities who go to Yamalaya, means the abode of death, around me. Is there a single day which goes where we don't see anything dead? Any living entity, I'm not talking about a human being, but sometimes, a rat is there, or a mosquito, or a this or that. Every living entity is around us, is dying every single day. But what do we think? I'm going to live forever. I'm not going to die. All of us are superwomen. They're not going to die. Yeah, we will die. Do we think or do we plan in that way? Are you comfortable, Rekha?
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
No, not at all. So the question here arises is that what is this faith? Everyone needs to have some preliminary faith. If a child wants to know who her father is, what should she do?
Ask her mother.
Simple as that. If she says, I want some scientific proof, what she'll have to do? Yeah, DNA testing. Probably test at least, all the men her mother has met. Yeah, that is what science is all about, right? Absolutely, standard way. Even if she, like here, it's a very exaggerated fact, assuming that she tests only 10% males on the planet. Each person to test takes about, how much does it take? About 100 seconds per male. How many people have to test? The simple thing is if you simply have faith on your mother. Faith in mother's statements will show you who your father is. And then your experience also counts. Correct? So this Shabda Praman is having faith in Vedas. It's an integral part of our life. Every day when we get into that cab, we don't check whether the cab person is a lunatic or is he alright or is he... Possible hai. But if we start living our life like that, what will happen? Paranoid. Yeah, totally paranoid. We're living our life with faith. So what we're asking you to do is that not reject the Vedas entirely just because, so many people, actually Indians do that. They say, oh, Vedas is all mythology. We ask, have you read it? Padha bhi hai. How can you just reject something without even trying, without even, science means aim. Right, we did that last time. Science means some aim you have, right? And you have some procedure that you have to follow. You have some theory that you can follow. After that comes observation. After that is conclusion. The way that we behave with the Vedas is absolutely unscientific. Oh, it is.
But I think the thing is that Vedas, at least we were always told it's so voluminous and you were never exposed to the yoga, Gita and all, but
Yes.
Vedas is something which is only for the, really intellectual, that's what...
Yeah, later on actually, when this casteism started arising around the 17th to 18th century, around actually 15th, 16th century, already this casteism had started seeping in, where Shudras were absolutely, neglected. It's actually quite weird because I was also quite upset about this. I was thinking it's a Vedic discipline. I was thinking this is a Vedic system. Varnashram is a Vedic system. Something which Krishna has created. He says that I have created And he says that who's a Shudra, who's a Kshatriya, who's a Vaishya, who's a Brahman, how do you find out? He never says Janma. He says Guna Karma. He says Guna Karma Vibhagasha. He doesn't say Janma Karma Vibhagasha. But all the casteism that we have in our head is that just because this person is born in a Brahman family, he gets that thread, which is rubbish. Krishna has never said Janma Karma Vibhagasha. Yes, that person might be having some good pious activities, that's why he must be born in an already, family which is practicing some level of God consciousness. That takes a little punya to be born. But after that, what that person does will decide whether he is a Brahman or not. His guna, his qualities and his activities have to be like a Brahman. He has to be tolerant, he has to be patient, he has to be, all these are qualities of a Brahman, not a tea drinking Brahman. He has to be tolerant. So we come back to our topic, faith. Faith is an integral part of our life. Like there is this person who was flying, and then there was a lot of turbulence, and they said that we might have to land immediately, and kind of, you can understand, it's like a crash landing. So then everyone was so paranoid, and then this girl who was sitting absolutely quiet, she was reading a book, she was totally calm. And the passengers, when they got off, they were asking her that you're such a tiny girl, weren't you scared? And she said that my mother is the pilot, I'm sure she will never let anything happen to me. Do we have that faith in the pilot? Often they call out the name, they say the name of the pilot, but how do we know? That's just faith. What is blind faith?
You don't question.
You don't question, you don't know. Vedas are not asking you to do that. Vedas are asking you, question, but then wait till you get the answer at least. This, as until when you go under a surgeon's knife, it's faith on that surgeon. Right? So faith in scriptures is the preliminary thing that we are asking you to do. When you practice the procedures which are there in this scientific book called the Vedas, and then you make your observation and then you come to your conclusion. Right? So if we assume that scriptures are like our mother, because she will give us information about our Supreme Father, who is God. And they are important because to get knowledge of any subject, we refer to a book in that field. If you are studying engineering, you will not take up medical books. You will take up books in the field of engineering. Same way medical, same way management, or whatever field of study that you have taken up. When you take up a field of study on God, you refer to scriptures, which will give you knowledge about God. Textbook for understanding spirituality. That's the only way. Shabda Praman. Not direct perception, not guesswork, trial and error procedures. So our first part of the class is scriptures are like our mother. The second part that I come to is who am I? Now in who am I, we're going to see about two things. What does the science say about us? And what does our mother, what does scripture say about us? What does science say about us? This is Dr. Harry Monson. He is professor of anatomy in Illinois College of Medicine. What did he do? He took up a human body, alive, and he made a quick calculation. Mostly to pani hai. If I have to sell this body, what will I get? 5 pounds of calcium, 1.5 pounds of phosphate, 9 ounces of potassium, sulfur, sodium, magnesium, iron, copper. This is the entire constitution of my body. All the bones together, all the blood goes like water itself. Everything is mostly water. 70% is water. Baki 30% is all these chemicals. Right? If I actually sell it, it's worth 120 rupees.
110.
Oh, sorry, 110. Even less. Oh my God.
Or if you sell the heart, liver, kidney, probably that's worth a lot more.
Yeah, because till the time it's functional. Yeah, once it's decomposed. What did he do? He just took out all the calcium, all the chemicals that make up this entire body. Imagine, even the watches that we wear, the clothes that we wear are expensive than this 110 rupees. For what? For this body. Why? The jewelry that we buy for this body. When something is very cheap, you don't spend so much on it. Do we?
1 kg of fruits and vegetables is also more expensive.
Exactly. Can you believe, to feed or to maintain this body, 110 rupees is what you get when you actually, boil down, break down this body and try to. The actual chemicals which are making it function is worth only this much. Just imagine, you're going on the road and you see a speeding car which belongs to your friend and it meets with an accident. Right. Now you see there, his expensive car is there which is damaged, and that person is there who is brutally hurt, very badly hurt. What do you do first? Take that person to the hospital or take the car to the garage first?
Obviously, the person.
The car is more expensive than the person. The person is only 110 rupees. Imagine if it's one of these Aston Martins here. Come on, really? You're still going to take that person to just look?
The person matters more than the material.
There's definitely something more inside this 110 rupees body, which is worth something that we spend so much on, which is so much more worth, and that's what our loved ones are to us. They're not 110 rupees to us, right? There's something much more. It's definitely something inside, some object inside this body who is very dear to us, right? So who am I? I'm definitely much more than this material gross body. What does my mother say about it? What do scriptures say? Scriptures obviously tell us that we are not this body. That thing which is important to us is the soul, the spirit soul or the Atma. If you compare us to a car, the car has the mouth to speak, the car has a horn to sound to communicate, we have a mouth, right? It has the headlights, we have eyes, right? It has the engine or the radiator which pumps, and we have the heart, correct? 4 wheels, we have our hands and legs to move about and do our activities. And then there's a driver in the car, without which the car is immobile or dead. Same way, inside this body, inside this gross body, there's a spirit soul, there's a spirit spark, without which the car cannot, this body cannot move. All those chemicals, all those things, all that lovely hair, lovely eyes, lovely smile becomes worthless. Becomes worthless. The car cannot budge 1 inch without the driver. The body cannot function even for a second without the soul. Yeah? What an important principle is, if something happens to the car, is it necessary that the driver is also dead?
No.
Same way, when something happens to this body, it's not necessary, or it's actually not that person is actually damaged or dead or something. What is dead is only the gross body.
But if the driver is dead, the body is useless then. But if the driver is dead, the body is useless.
Does the driver die if something happens to the body?
No.
The first thing happens is like, what my point? It's an analogy that I'm trying to use, that the driver can change cars.
Acha.
Okay, that's the point that I'm coming to. The driver can change cars. If I take your example here, like this lady, she had a beautiful rare parakeet bird, and she had a golden cage in which she would keep the bird. Every day she would polish the cage beautifully, take care and brush it and such nice. And then one day she realized that the parakeet bird is dead because she forgot to feed the bird. Yeah? Just as the bird is trapped in the cage, the soul is trapped in this body, made up of gross elements. I'll send them there. Thank you. Earth, water, fire, air and ether. We learned this in 8th grade. Our gross body is made up of earth, water, fire, air and ether. So who am I? If you see, I'm asking you about this question, who am I? Is about our identity. There are 2 types of identity. Real identity, a permanent identity, and a temporary identity. When I go to my child's school, what is my identity? a mother. Yeah. If I go to my husband's office, what is my identity? I'm the wife. Yeah. If you go to your own corporate firm, or who are you? You're the boss. Yeah. If I go to US, who am I?
Indian.
I'm an Indian. Right? If you see, this identity is pertaining to where I've got this body from, or what role this gross body is performing. If I'm performing the role of a mother, then my identity is a mother. If I'm performing the role of a wife, then I'm the mother. These are temporary identities. Why temporary? Why do I call them temporary? Because they are changing according to circumstances and situations. Right? What do you mean by identity?
As people know you.
Yeah.
That's your identity.
That's our identity. There is something called a permanent identity. It's just like, a person who is an artist and he performs dramas throughout the day. Morning shift, afternoon shift and evening shift. What is he doing? He's playing roles. Yeah, parts. In morning maybe he's like some king. In the afternoon in the play he's some pauper. In the evening he is, some other character. What if he gets lost in these roles? What happens?
He loses his identity.
He loses his identity as an artist. So me, this person who is more important to us, that 110 thing, that spirit soul, is our permanent real identity. Everything which is changing, mother, father, a sister, daughter-in-law, whatever, is the roles that I am playing. When I get lost in these roles is what exhausts me, which frustrates me, because I'm not identifying my real position. So who am I means, the question that I'm asking you is, what is your real identity? Are you this body or are you the soul? The scriptures say, I am the soul and not this body. Now after making that statement, not knowing that their real identity as the soul, the people spend all their life in polishing the cage, pampering the body without feeding the soul. If I come back to the analogy of the car and the driver, now for the car to be mobile, what do I need to do? Petrol. That's the food for the car. When the driver goes to the petrol pump, बोलते कि 10 लीटर गाड़ी के लिए 1 लीटर मेरे लिए. There's a difference in the food also, or nourishment also. Yeah? So what is food for the body is not food for the soul. It's not food for the driver. That is what we fail to give, and that is what this analogy picks up.
No, but like the last theory in Shabda Praman and so the perception, so we actually believe what we see. So the identification is what we see, we know you of as, and of
Yes.
course the soul and the spirit is...
It's based on the gross body.
Yeah, so you can't see it, you can't perceive it, that's why you don't identify that.
Exactly. We'll come to the proof of existence of the soul. Again, I'll tell you that whatever I'm speaking, or whatever these shastras, sorry, it's there, yeah. Whatever these shastras are saying, they can be proved. I told you, they are axioms. But they can be proved too. You have a question? Oh, I thought you had. So who am I when the science or when scriptures are saying that you are this soul, not this body? It will be proved when we come to the fourth part of the class. Right now I am establishing a point. Is that what is my identity? I am a soul. I am not this body. The identity that the world has given me based on the basis of this gross body are simply the roles that I am playing, and that's why they are changing. Because I am getting lost in these roles, feeding only these roles, physically, mentally, socially, and I am not feeding the soul, that's why I am frustrated. That's why this cage becomes useless, because the person inside is gone. Does the cage have any meaning then if it's not being used for the parrot? To think of something that we are not means that we are... I'm not saying anything. You read it. Be crazy. It's there that once when Jawaharlal Nehru, the first time, he's the first Prime Minister of our country, when he went to a mental asylum on an official visit, one of the patients he was meeting, and the patient asked him, "Who are you?" Because he's been there for so long, he didn't know that India's got independence and the first Prime Minister. So he said, "I'm Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru." he said, oh, and he started laughing. He said, don't worry. 5 years back I used to think the same. Now I'm much more better. You'll also be alright. So to think of something else means I'm crazy. So if I think that I'm this body or the roles that I'm playing in this body, means I'm crazy. Something's wrong with us. We have to identify our real position. Like that artist, if he gets lost in the roles, he becomes frustrated because to come out of it becomes more difficult. In the role of a king, if he plays like a pauper, what will happen? It's not going to work. My roles that I'm playing as a mother, as a daughter-in-law, as as a wife, as a corporate person, as this, as that, when I get lost in these roles, I'm not giving food to the soul, who's real me. So scriptures are like our mother. The scriptures, the mother gives me my identity that I am not this body, I am the soul. Now if I am saying that, what is the proof of existence of the soul? Right. So now the question is, how many bodies do we have? We did these two parts. Who am I? How many bodies do we have? Generally, if you ask someone, how many bodies do you have? What would they say?
One body.
One.
Means the body, mental body, some soul body.
Three bodies. How is that?
At a time.
At a time, yes. At a time. I'm not talking about clothes. Talking about this. How many bodies do we have? We have 3 bodies. Broad category, inferior, superior. Inferior mein there are 2 sections. Gross body and subtle body. And the actual me, when I talk about spirit soul, is the 3rd body that I have. Gross outer body, the thing that I can see right now when I see you, the person, when I ask a person that how many bodies do you have? I'll have to put up a board. Pass that side.
I went there.
You went there. Gross outer body, it's made up of 5 gross elements. Earth, which includes all solid elements in my body, the bones, the flesh, everything. Water includes all liquid, right from the blood to the pancreatic liquid, everything. Fire includes all fire, heat and combustion, which happens in my body. Digestion is because of the fire element in my body. Air includes all wind and gases in my body. And ether includes the space, vacuum and sound in my body. That is ether. So you get all these 5 elements. They have been already proven by
How would you define space in the body?
this sinus that we have.
Okay.
It's actually some space in the body. Sometimes if it's filled up with mucus, it creates
Yeah.
pain. Yeah. Like this, the hollow cavity around the bones and everything. That's some space in the body which is there. All that is accumulated as or as counted as ether. Yeah. So earth, water, fire, air, ether, that becomes my gross body. What is now these things? Like suppose earth can be seen, can be touched, can be kept in a container. All these things can be done, can be molded, can be changed. Subtle than earth, or more sukshma as it's called in Hindi, is water. Can be touched, can be perceived, but it's more fluid, it's more subtle than earth. It's not as gross as earth is. What about fire? Can it be contained? No. Right? And what about, it's different from water and earth in different ways. Fire doesn't have any particular form either. Water, if I put it in a certain, container, it takes up that form, but it's not like that for fire. It's more subtle. More subtle than fire is air. Cannot see it. Little bit perception is there. I can feel it. Can I contain it? No. Ether is even more subtle than air. Like for example, sound. Sound is an energy. Sometimes, I remember watching an ad on TV where this lady, she's an opera singer, and she screams. She sings. And what happens? The glass breaks. Because sound is an energy. When she shrieks, the glass shatters. Right? So sound is an energy, but it is more subtle. There are different parameters used to measure sound. If I have to measure earth, it's very easy. If I have to measure water, it's easier. And then fire becomes a little difficult to measure. Air becomes even more difficult. Ether it's absolutely different science to sound or decibels. There is decibels, not liters or kilos. So what happens? These things become more subtle. Now this is simply the outer section of the body that I can see. More than that, there is something even more subtle in my body which is running my body. That is the subtle body. It's called subtle because it cannot be measured the way all these gross physical elements are being measured. It is mind, intelligence and false ego. Room number 8. Mind. How do I know someone has a mind? How do we identify a child who is special? Or yeah, like if a person doesn't when do we say that you're mad? Yeah, I would like someone is behaving in not a normal way. Immediately you can not following the normal behavior that they should, then we call that person mad. It's very easy to pick up. Can we measure activities of the mind? I wish, but although there are paranormal sciences, there are psychological, there are certain researches being conducted in this subtle area of our body. The mind. Intelligence is more subtle than mind. Mind everyone can have. Can everyone have intelligence? I wish. No.
I think everyone has it, but maybe in
the gradations. The gradations.
Because you can't say no one has intelligence.
Exactly. Even birds have intelligence. Birds, animals also have intelligence. Right? But intelligence is more subtle. Because just by seeing someone's behavior, you can assume that he is of a normal mind, normal mental state. But intelligence is something which you can discover only when one opens their mouth. Or says something or does something. Then you understand that, oh, she's got good intelligence. It's more subtle. It's not in a gross form like, is intelligence something that I can take out from someone? I wish, that's what they're trying to do. When they're trying to produce something like a robot, it's called artificial intelligence. Because it's artificial, it's not natural. They tried to store Einstein's brain and do what? Can they use his intelligence?
No.
They can take out all the neurons, all the protons in the brain, all the cells, all the chemicals. But they cannot function the way Einstein functioned or the way Einstein thought, because it's a part of his subtle body which is intelligence. More subtle than intelligence.
So mind is the same as brain? Or
You tell me. I was coming to that.
okay.
No, you answer me now. If I take out a part of somebody's brain and I put it in mind, do I get his mind? Why?
Because the connections are different. I don't know.
Because it's subtle body. Brain is something, the flesh. It's made of earth only. It's inside this. We learned it in 8th grade. I'm sure everyone must have heard this. Brain is
There's no brain transplant.
or intelligence transplant. Cerebellum can sometimes, parts of the cerebellum can be transplanted, but these are. It's not that you get the intelligence of that person. I cannot, transfer intelligence of a person. Why? Because it is subtle. I'll tell you one thing. After I finish this, I'll give you 2 examples by which it will become more clear. By intelligence, or brain is the seat of intelligence. That's there in the 8th grade textbooks. Is there? Anyone who's there as a child in the 8th grade?
What did you say?
Brain is the seat of intelligence. Like I have a chair and I'm sitting on it. Am I the chair? I can get up and go. Yeah. So brain is simply a seat. It's an organ which intelligence uses to function. We'll come to it. You'll understand it more. More subtle than intelligence is false ego. me, mine, I am more important. That aham or ahankar as we call is very subtle. You can't catch it in a person so easily. It's a very important part of the subtle body. This false ego is actually the element which makes us believe that we are this body. Because we don't realize, even when I'm telling you now that I'm not this body, is it so easy to realize? No, when I look into the mirror, I just see that, how beautiful I am. But if someone has to tell me that I'm not this body, what do I think? Isn't it? It's like too much to take at once. But this is what scriptures say, that we have three bodies. We have the gross body, we have the subtle body, and our actual identity is this spiritual body. Like the constitution of gross body is 5, constitution of subtle body is 3, EMI, what is that? Ego, mind and intelligence. You can remember it as MBA, Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, or EMI. Ego, mind and intelligence. Anything. What's the constitution of that spirit soul? It's Sat. It's made up of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Elements which are very, 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 very subtle scientific ways. Cannot be measured by material standards. How do you measure eternal? That is that thing which is more important to me than that Aston Martin car, and that's why I take that person to the hospital immediately. That person is Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And this is why we search for happiness in this world. Because ideally or really we are actually happy by nature. We think this material object will make me happy. We're searching it outside. Whereas the nature of the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. These are the three elements. When you say spiritual, like outside, if you go to a market where there is a spiritual techniques given to you to calm down, soothe down, or whatever, theories that they give you, if they give you mind control, what part of the body it is? Is it your material body or is it your spiritual body?
It depends.
Mind control techniques, is it pertaining to your material body or to your spiritual body?
Some to material and some to subtle. That's what they claim.
The material means gross, subtle both.
Yeah. So
Subtle does not mean spiritual. Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kham buddhi. Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kham mano buddhi revach. I have to say it in a tune only, then I remember. Bhumi rapo. Bhumi is what? Earth. Bhumi apo. Apo is water. So earth, water, fire, air, ether. Kham mano. Kham is ether. Mano, buddhi, ahankar. Man is the mind, buddhi is intelligence, ahankar. These are 8 material elements. This entire cosmic creation is made by these 8 material elements and the combination of these 8 material elements. These planets are made up of earth. There's so much space and so many pockets of vacuum in this space, which is all there. Moon is made up of a different earth, material element. The sun is made up of fire. That's a different material element, right? This entire universe is made up of all these 8 material elements, correct? But what is more important? What runs this? All these are dead by nature, correct? If I give you the example of our outfits, the jacket that a person wears is like the gross body that you see first. The inside vest is like the subtle body. Mind, intelligence and false ego. And the person who is wearing these things, the vest and the jacket, is the person, is the soul who is Sat Chit Ananda. Easy to understand? Second example of that is computer. In the computer there are 3 parts. There is hardware, there is software and programs is part of software. Memory is part of software. Electricity. CPU is hardware. CPU is the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, this, that, whatever that you can see. Yeah. If I tell you, when I was a child, I used to actually think software means something which is inside those green chips, I used to think like that, soft things. I thought maybe it's hidden somewhere. If I cut and open it, I'll find the software. What is software?
programs are
The programming, yeah, which runs the hardware. You get it? Subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego uses this gross body, the brain, the heart, to run its programs. Now, maybe in the hardware I'll find it in binary digits. That's the way they express, but that's not the software.
The gross body runs the
Subtle body runs the hardware or the gross body.
gross body.
I say the hardware, right? So software is not something that I can take out. I can use it, transfer it to a gross thing, and maybe take it out in a CD or something. But if I have to actually pinpoint, remove, measure, doesn't work. Right? So you get the difference between hardware and software. For the hardware and software to run, you need electricity, which is even more subtle than the hardware and the software. Without electricity, can these two work on its own? No, that electricity is the soul. Is that clear? Can you understand now?
Yeah.
The soul is covered by gross and subtle coverings. The inside, the yellow part, is like Satchit Ananda, eternity, full of knowledge and bliss. That is the constitution of my real identity. I am the soul. This is me. I am Satchit Ananda. I am eternal. Yeah. And then the second body or the second covering that I have is the subtle body, EMI, ego, mind, intelligence. And the third or the gross body that I have is what everyone can see. What all these identities that I have is based on my gross body. I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm black, I'm blue. Yeah. All this is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Combination of those. Sometimes we say, I'm sad, I'm very happy. That identity is based on subtle body. Because mind is the seat of all emotions, feelings. Intelligence is the seat of discrimination. What is right, what is wrong. Ego is me. My identity.
Now we can pick up this. Since
Yeah.
one subject is over.
Oh, this is not working. No wonder.
It's 12.
I have to take that off. I'm wondering how come it's only 11:35, so I'm talking since when? But the scriptures say that I'm much more than this gross body. I have three bodies: gross, subtle, and the soul, spiritual body. My gross body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. My subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the spiritual body is Satchidananda, that is eternity, full of knowledge and bliss. Right? Now this is an analogy which is drawn. The analogy is given in the Katha Upanishad. This Katha Upanishad says that our body is like a chariot. Just like the chariot has wheels, we have the five senses. Five senses is ears, eyes, nose, tongue and skin. This also we learnt in school. Yeah? These are, they express and they collect knowledge through sense of touch, sound, speaking, whatever. All these things, these five senses are functional things in my body. Right? These are like the five horses of the chariot. Correct? And the reins or the ropes which are holding the chariot is the mind. Like mechanical or mental, it's like the senses. Whenever they want something, they pass the message to the mind. That I want this. Right? And the mind starts thinking. The mind is in the hands of, or the ropes are in the hands of a driver. Correct? If I compare it to a car, the steering wheel becomes the mind. And then the driver is behind the steering wheel. The driver is the intelligence who discriminates, who guesses, who judges that whether the horse, his want to go in a particular direction is right or wrong. Or whether the rope has to be pulled or let go. Correct? So that's the decision of the intelligence. And then, who's the most important person in this chariot? What is the purpose of the chariot?
To move, transport people from one
Transport people or transport the passenger. Huh? Correct? Imagine if I sit in a cab and I tell him, he asks me, Bhenji, kahan jana hai? So what do I tell him? Jahan leke jana hai. Either he'll throw me out or he'll be like, take me for a good ride. Correct? The passenger has to know where he has to go. That passenger is the soul. Okay? You get this analogy of the Katha Upanishad? Makes it very clear. 5 horses are the 5 senses of my body. The reins of the ropes is the mind. Driver is the intelligence. And the passenger is the spirit soul. This is how my body functions. Correct? And now imagine, what is the situation here? Passenger sleeping. Khana nahi mila hai. Food nahi hai, the passenger is sleeping. The intelligence doesn't know where to go, is very weak because there's not proper intelligence. The 5 horses are like 5 wives of a man. One wants to go shopping, one wants to go clubbing, one wants to go somewhere else, pulling him in all 5 directions. If 5 horses of the chariot want to go in 5 different directions, what happens? The passenger falls off the cliff.
Yeah, because there's so much confusion.
So much confusion. The horses want to do what they want to. The mind is running everywhere because the intelligence is not so sharp, is not so strong, and he doesn't know where to go because the soul is sleeping. So how to awaken? How does the chariot function properly? The first thing which needs to be done is food for the soul, which is most important. Of course, the chariot needs oiling, the horses need food, but all that without the passenger being alive is no point. So I'm not saying that don't take care of this gross body or subtle body. They are important. And what is important is the spiritual body, spiritual food. How do we get spiritual food? Is what we do. Now, how to get physical food and mental food is there in the aware. What we come here for, or what we take from Gita is food for the soul. That we'll be doing more about that on day 6. Practical application of Bhagavad Gita is all about that. Food for the soul. Yeah. So now, why put faith in scriptures? Who am I? I am not this body. I am the spirit soul. I am Satchidananda. I have 3 bodies. One is the gross material body which everyone can see. And the subtle body. I have a subtle body which is mind, intelligence, ego. It's the software of my body. And most important is the spirit soul who is Satchidananda. Now, if I am saying I am the spirit soul, what is the proof? I told you it is science. Proof to dena padega. That's my pen. It's there. So we're going to have 3 proofs. One logical proof, one scientific proof. Science has actually proved existence out of this gross body. And then finally the scriptural proof. So what we start with is logical proof. Now logically, if you just think like there's a class teacher and she calls the student in front of the class, and if she asks the student to point out to various logically there's a proof, scientifically there's proof, and again scripturally Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita what is the proof of the soul. First proof is common sense. Is it really common sense, existence of the soul? People speak about Atma, but everyone was so confused about, they thought the mind and intelligence is also part of the Atma, or lot of hodgepodge confusion. Right? How do we know that the soul or this body is something else, is something external?
Life, because there's something that drives your body, there's life, because the minute you're dead, I mean there has to be some logic that if your heart stops functioning, you're dead, you're claimed to be.
That's introspection.
Yeah.
That is introspection. Yeah, if I actually go through common sense, what happens? Just imagine, you get a phone call that such and such person, close relative of yours, is dead. No? One of the most practical questions, just tell me if I'm right or wrong, one of the most practical questions that we ask to that person on the phone is what time they're taking the body. So that you can gauge how much time you have and right, what time you can eat. Isn't one of the most practical questions? Of course, how and everything comes a little later. The first thing you have to know कि मुझे कितने बजे वहाँ पहुँचना है. But if you really introspect the question that you ask, you have even stopped relating that person to that body? The question that you've asked is what time are they taking the body? Did you ask what time are they taking for Mr. X or Mr. Y? Miss Y? Did you ask that way? Why?
No, it depends. Actually, if it's a relative, you always refer to as body. Like if it's somebody really, really close, then you still, even after the person's gone, you still refer to him as with his name only.
I'm saying practically. When that body is lying in front of you, do you call that person, like suppose in a morgue?
No, she's right. See,
actually, I'll just give you a personal example. Like this best friend of mine, when he passed away, we always refer to him as Ashu. Ashu को कितने बजे लेके जाएंगे? श्रीनगर लेके जा रहे हैं. Ashu को कब लेके जाएंगे श्रीनगर? You know all that. तो Ashu का funeral हो गया ये वो ऐसे. But if it's anybody besides him, हाँ फिर body, you know, then we refer to him.
Yeah, that's an emotional touch.
But that's
that's a very emotional commitment.
You know, it's very few times. We'll always say body. You will not address that relation at that time. Suppose the relative Chachi ji or
You
Mami ji
sometimes
or
Exactly,
you
then it's body. Unless and until, thank you.
Yeah.
Unless and until, I think it's just the immediate family you always
Even
say
in
body.
immediate, if you're, I think, maybe very close, but you stop referring, I think, to the names. Like she said, you'll generally say, "Acha, body ko kab leke ja rahe?"
Right.
Yeah.
ठीक है.
The general language
But
that we
we got
use,
it, what
yeah.
you mean, yeah.
What
I
I'm
got
trying
what
to
you
say
mean.
is that the
Yeah.
general language that you would ask
Yeah.
is the body.
Yeah.
In a morgue, they don't name that person according to that.
Name.
It's some number. You have to give the number, then you will give the. Suppose if someone is admitted and passed away in the night, you don't get the body immediately. You get it the next day, morning from the morgue. You have to pick it up from the morgue. There's a lot of formality after it. But my point that I'm trying to make is that because we know, and even logically, we have, introspect. If you really introspect the language that we're using, in all the communities, they often say that this person has left us. This person has passed away. If really Ashu was that body, why are you crying? Because Ashu is just lying there. What you have realized is that he has left us and he's not going to come back to me. That pain out of which you're referring to that body is that because you're never going to see that person again. In spite of the fact that that body is lying down there right in front of me. What you have realized is that that person is no more.
Related the body, related the soul.
Exactly. We know that there is something more important to that person than that gross body made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, which is eventually going to be burnt or cremated or whatever the procedure is. Right?
Could you just do the previous slide? Just want to note down.
This one?
It's there
It's there.
before. Go to one page, please.
Even in Marathi they say mela, gela. These words are often used. Or in Gujarati, I think,
As I said, he's
Gone.
still with me, or he or she is still with me, even after this.
Yeah,
I
but
feel the presence that he or she is still with me or whatever,
yeah, but that's minus the gross body. Yeah. So if you really introspect, if you apply logical, if you just apply a little bit of common sense, you'll come to the point that that person is much more than the gross body. That is the soul that we are referring to. The spirit soul. Right? We don't think about it that much, isn't it? Like in this case, the relatives are crying because they know gross body is lying there, but someone has passed away. Someone is gone. Someone who was there with us and has just left. If I point to my, this is my pen. Yeah, this is my hand. When you're asked to, like a child in the class, I was making that point and I stopped. And child in the class was called and the teacher tells him, point out to your nose, point out to your eyes. He does that. And when we say, point out to yourself, what do? This. But this is my body. What I'm not realizing, it's actually a mistake that we do. This is my body. When I say my pen, my identity is not that pen. It's my pen. Even the language that we use. When something is external to me, I say my. My hair, my eyes, my emotions, my parents.
We would address it like that.
Yeah, it's right. I'm saying something external to me. And when it's something pertaining to me, I say I. Do I say I parents? What is I parents? Is it correct English? Means something which is external to me.
It's mine.
Yeah, even this body. or these organs which make up this body is external. That's why this language of my liver, my kidney, my heart. The soul is something, a lot of times people think that, soul matlab body ke saath gaya. But then what is the difference? Why do you need the soul then? Body is everything. Right? What is functioning? The body is functioning because the soul is existing. Once the soul has gone, that body is right in front of us, lifeless. Yeah? Till the time this hair is on my scalp, it's very beautiful. The minute it's in our food, because it's not connected to the soul anymore. It's dead, contamination. We spend so much on the nails. Pedicure, that's feet. Manicure, the nail polishes or some nail arts. The minute it's broken, do you still decorate it? No, it's ugly. Anything connected to the soul has life in it. The minute the soul is gone, it's dead matter. What is the second example of or proof of existence of the soul? The first is common sense and introspection. If you actually introspect the way we live our life, if you actually introspect the language that we speak, we know that we are referring often to the soul rather than the gross body of that person.
Or it's vice versa, that we often refer to our body, the external body.
We see people as external bodies, but in the end of their life you can see that they've left something behind which is not them.
No, I'm saying the language reference is generally what we do, refer to the external body than the soul. No?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
We don't
you
even
said that
behave.
we refer more to the soul. That's a.
What do you think?
No, I feel we refer more to the external bodies. Not
Yeah,
to the soul.
even the platform of our behavior is on the roles that we are playing or this body is playing rather than to the spirit soul. Otherwise we would have been giving food to the soul. So after logical proof, we come to scientific proof. There's something called near-death experience, or the scientific term for it is NDE. Sometimes called NDE, sometimes called OBE. You can Google these, you'll find a lot of information on it. Out-of-body experience or near-death experience. What is near-death? Can anyone explain?
Almost I thought कि इसको थोड़े दिन पहले पता चल गया था कि वो जाने वाले हैं.
नहीं, when the science declares him dead for a few minutes and then the person
A
comes
person
back.
who's clinically dead, nothing on the ECG, apparently, no signs of pulse, no signs of life in that body. But he comes back to
When they
life.
give them the electric shock.
Yeah, maybe electric shock. A lot of time it is,
Or maybe on its own also.
sometimes on its own. A lot of times for heart patients, for cardiac arrest, they do this. And a person, when they come back, whatever accounts that they have given of what experience they've had is surprisingly very similar to others. That is called NDE. NDE refers to experiences some people have when faced with impending death. Yeah.
What experience?
Yeah, these experiences include detachment from the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had
And-
incidents in our family, so I know about it. My Tauji, grand Tauji, he had this kind of experience,
There are a lot of
He
them who
said,
had
like,
experiences
I
like
was
that.
lingering over my body. I could see you all cry.
Exactly.
And I came back. And he's saying, I saw even Jamraj, his boots and all, they were standing for me and I came back.
Yes.
That is what he did.
Feeling of levitation, hovering around your own body. This is actually recorded by Michael Samom, Dr. Michael Samom, who himself was very skeptical about any existence out of this gross body. Means how can you be alive? Your brain is here, your eyes are here, how can you see? It's like there's a camera lens. There's a camera lens. Can it see? What sees? The person, the person behind it, the cameraman, as they call it, the camera person, has his own eyes.
But we see
And
because
so-
of the lens. No? If the lens is not there,
That's
we
only
can
a
The cameraman cannot see. Cameraman doesn't have eyes of his own.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you have to view it through the camera.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that camera lens is like this gross, fleshy retina or cornea or whatever you call it. There is something inside who sees through this lens, or smells through the nose, or hears, or touches. or tastes? Behaves through these hands. This electricity which is using the software and hardware. Yeah. So near-death experience is, it's like they had like this. All these feelings include. I think the list is there here. Sense of being dead, means you can't feel the gross body anymore. Sensation of floating above one's body and seeing the surrounding area. This is what you described. A sensation of moving upwards through a tunnel or a narrow passageway. This is also a lot of times people have given this description. They pass through a tunnel and a narrow passageway.
And they also see their ancestors and a lot of people who come to pick them up, right?
Yeah, but people who come also, which the other people cannot see. Yeah. But this is a more scientific thing. So they often write down something which is the majority. Yeah. Encountering a being of, very light. A feeling of being returned to the body, often accompanied by a reluctance.
They don't want to.
Yeah, light.
They don't want to come back to the body.
Means after some reluctance, it's some little bit, it's often some reluctance. Because they can see the gross body, it's a very scary experience. What is happening? It's like that. Now imagine we connect to the gross body so much and then watching it. Michael Sebom actually had a very, this person, he was actually a very skeptic. He's a surgeon. By profession, he's a surgeon. And after a certain experience, he went through this. He actually started doing more research on near-death experience and out-of-body experience. He was operating a person who had a heart problem, a cardiac arrest. During the operation, the person had a flat line on the ECG. He had gone. They were trying to, resuscitate, with those, whatever you call it. And then what happened? He was pronounced dead. And then this person was talking and everything. And then after some time, this person came back to life. And he said that I could see everything that was going on in the surgery room. And he said that I was hovering on top. I could see my own body. And after he came out of anesthesia, he said he was describing all these things. It was very astonishing. In fact, he was also describing instruments that the doctor was using and which the patient could not have possibly seen because he was under local anesthesia. And plus, everyone was witness that they saw a absolute flat ECG line, no pulse, a completely lifeless body, and this person has come back to life and recounting what he saw when they thought he was clinically dead.
It must be like when they say there is a soul in the body, there is, because one of my relatives when he died, the moment the soul was leaving the body, he actually had jumped a little up and then he sat, he laid down again.
Yeah.
So means there must be some force, some soul, because that left the body.
That force, yeah.
And they say it's very painful and
it's like 40,000 scorpions biting.
But is this true really, that when scorpions bite you, you don't die of the poison, you die of the pain?
Pain.
Really?
It's very painful. You can ask some villager, they tell you. Because they've actually had experience of, must have seen people with scorpion bites. Yeah, they don't die of the poison, they die out of the pain. It's very painful. Imagine death. Even when you're leaving your school or something, imagine the last day of school, how we look back and we think like, what is death? You're leaving everything. You don't know where you're going. What is going to happen? What is happening to your body? You can see that gross body lying over there, as in case of all these people. It's a very different experience.
Start reading scriptures like in Jainism, how they say there's life after death. When if you've done good deeds, how you go, and if you've done bad deeds, how you're punished. And the other thing after death, I actually hear that.
Yeah, in fact, one of these things, in one of these lists, often a lot of patients gave them, a report that we were given a review of our life. Means the entire life that they had, it was actually flashed in front of them. And they could actually see like a camera reel. Yeah. It's like a whole flash. What all you've done. A lot of them gave this report. We didn't put it up in here. That's near-death experience. That's first proof of existence out of this gross body. Yeah. Near-death experiences confirm that human consciousness exists independent of this gross body, independent of this hardware and software. There is sufficient scientific research and reports to show that some people observe their physical body and events relating to it from a perspective outside the body during severe illness or physical trauma, resulting in unconsciousness, clinical or brain death situations.
Would a past life regression be a part of this OBE?
Yes. OBE, this is a scientific research which was carried on by Dr. Michael Saboum and his colleagues. Reincarnation was done by this person, Dr. Ian Stevenson. That means now I'm summarizing this point. The next scientific proof for the existence of the soul is reincarnation. Yeah, Dr. Ian Stevenson, he is a professor of psychiatry in West Virginia. He has literally proved almost over 3,000 cases of reincarnation. Now what he did is that he did not apply something called regression. Yeah? Because if you see, regression is not a completely scientific wise a procedure which is very tangible for everyone to see, and plus you cannot write down that much of a thesis based on regression or hypnosis, to be more specific. What did he try? He actually brought a lot of children who often recount as they call past lives, and what did he do? He matched them. Classic case of Dr. Ian Stevenson was in collaboration with Dr. Satwan Pasricha. She was with neuroscience in Bangalore. What happened? There was this person called Shukla. This girl, she was born in Calcutta to a railway officer, and when she was around 1.5, she would often take a pillow in her house and keep patting that pillow, and she would call this pillow Meenu. Keep crying also. And then the parents thought, maybe it's just some childish thing that this girl is doing. And then they really didn't pay attention to it. By the time she grew up, she could start speaking. She was speaking at an entirely different dialect of Hindi. Absolutely different. Which, Bengalis, hardly they speak Hindi, and plus they have such heavy accent. And they were wondering, how can this girl speak? And the way she behaved was like a, very grown-up woman. And she would say that, I have my husband, I have my daughter, I have to go to them. And that's when they actually thought that maybe it's a past life thing, and they contacted this one, Dr. Satwan Pasricha, and she was working in the theories or the patterns of Dr. Ian Stevenson. And they came together. What did they do? They tried to recount everything. They took a whole detailed thesis of what this girl was talking about and everything, and they found out that the village that this girl was mentioning was actually there in Uttarakhand. So they took her there along with her parents. They found out everything from the parents. They did their initial research of whether this girl has any time in this lifetime been to that place. Sometimes memories often, flashback or something. So they took her to that place. They found that village. After the market area, this girl starts walking as if she knows this place so well. After she walks, she comes to a certain house where they find Meenu, who was a 12-year-old girl. They find her husband, they find her father-in-law, her mother-in-law, all those people that she was talking about. So finally, this whole experience that they had a question. And how is it possible that a person with a different gross body can be somewhere else with a different gross body and yet remember? There is something which has passed from this body to the next place. So scientifically what they have proved is that human consciousness can exist from, it's not dependent on the gross body. When this gross body is dead, there is something which is carried forward. Yeah?
In that is in a past life regression, ALR is very, these days is very common.
Yes.
Sense,
Hypnosis.
So isn't it evil for this little girl Shukla? Because she is remembering her past, so she is believing that I'm married, I have a child. So it's a little.
In fact, she was very much at unrest till she didn't meet them. She was very much at unrest. Imagine 4 years, 5 years. That's what. It's a very agonizing thing. What happened was that she died of some illness and she was very attached. So she carried that same impressions in her subtle body to the next body. Why this happens, we'll be doing in karma theory also when we come to day 5. It happens to some people, it doesn't happen to some people. You know, a lot of attachment often carries forward. But by the time, Dr. Michael Sebom in his theory, he was writing that by the time these children are 14, 15, they often forget. It fades away because impressions of this life have taken a lot of weightage, so the past life thing eventually fades away.
That's why they say when the young children are born, they always smile in the sleep.
Yes.
So they are remembering the
Yeah. Scientifically, at least this case was proved. Yeah.
But is
That-
it necessary that a human in this life is a human in another life?
No, it's not. Logical proof, scientific proof, last is scriptural proof. What do the scriptures say? The scriptures say that there are two types of reincarnation. One internal, one external. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 13th verse is Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara. Kaumaram is young, a kumar, youth. Yovanam, kumar is a child actually. Yovanam is youth, jara is old. It is scientifically proved that our body changes. All the cells in our body, each and the tiniest particle of body are the cells, micro cells that are there. They change entirely every 7 years. That means every 7th year of your life, you have an entirely new body altogether. Do we realize? Imagine someone who sees you after 10, 15 years. What do they say? Oh, you've changed. But we don't realize. That's internal reincarnation. Incarnation of this gross body. We've changed from childhood to youth to finally old age. This body is changing. But do we feel anything different? For us, we are that same person. We don't feel we've changed. Like even an old man, he feels like jumping like the child, but just that the gross body is not allowing it. What is changing is this body. And the soul is eternal. It's the same. Tatha dehantara prapte dhiras tatra na muhyati. Tatha, and. What is that? External reincarnation. When this gross body becomes useless, what happens? The soul passes into another body at the time of decay or death of this gross body. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, that's internal reincarnation, and passes into another body at death, that is external reincarnation. Right? So this is how it goes. Right from the mother's womb, and then back again a toddler, a young man, an old, and then he gets old and then he dies. Then he goes again into another womb. He's taken to another womb. Right? How that works, what is the basis of that is on day 5. And we do Kal. Why don't we remember our past lives? I don't remember what I was doing at this time yesterday.
Because the impressions of this life is so much that...
Yeah, the memory is limited. Often some people have some very gruesome impressions on their subtle body and that's why they remember it the next life. Yeah.
But it's all there in our minds. We can actually access it. It's all in our...
That's why in regression theories, often they can... in fact in regression there was a man who was 80-year-old. He could exactly relate what he did in his 5th birthday. 5th-year-old birthday. So it's
the
there.
idea of regression is that they take you in your past life.
Yeah, so like actually I'm a past life therapist. So in one of the cases we actually found out the one auntie didn't know her time of birth. Mm-hmm. So when she was born, we actually regressed her to the hospital room and we made her see the time when she was born.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Did you see it?
She saw it. It was whatever time was it? It's an old case. I don't remember exactly. So, but it was really interesting. Like she could exactly know approximately few minutes here and there, but she could really know that what time she was born. She remembered, what her mother was wearing, what did the doctor look like, stuff like that.
So it's all there. Mind is like the camera, it keeps clicking. It's a storage of all desires. It's a storage of impressions, memories.
In fact, I think we as humans, sometimes when we
Because what happens is, I'll come to your point. When the person dies, say, like here, now the body is old. Like in second chapter, same chapter, 22nd verse, Krishna says, Vasam se jirnani, yatha vihaya. The clothes that we are wearing, When they're old, what do? We give up those clothes, we wear the new ones. Have we changed? The clothes are changing. So when a person gives up their body, what he gives up is the gross body. The three types of body that we have. I have a gross body, I have a subtle body, I am the spirit soul. Yeah. So what happens? Gross body is what is left back. This soul and the subtle body are so intimately connected that they move to the next body. So the impressions, the phobias, whatever, moves with me to the next body. The desires move to the next body. Yeah?
So the subtle body also goes.
Subtle body also goes. Death means death only of the gross body, which was anyway dead elements. What kept it alive? The soul. The soul kept it alive. Yeah? Or whatever facilities I'm giving to this gross body. Then, just like a tomato has 2 days, 3 days of span of life. Like same way this gross body also has a certain span of life, say 80 or 90, 70, 60, sometimes less than that. So we get proof of existence of the soul. How many bodies do we have? We've already done. And then FAQs on the soul. There are certain questions which is there in the scriptures, they answer. Let's go through that. What happens to us after death? We change our bodies. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Navadehi. New body. A person puts on new dresses, giving up old ones. The soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul leaves the gross body behind and is taken to another womb based on the quality of desires stored in his subtle body. That means in the mind at the time of death. Didn't get it? Should I read it again? On the quality of his desires. Krishna says in 8th chapter, verse number 5, Anta kalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. He says, what you think of at the time of your death, whatever activities you've performed in your life, based on that you will take a next.
That's karma, right?
That's karma. That's karma. Means your mind is a storage of desires. We'll be doing this in advanced Bhagavad Gita courses, because this course is very short to learn a lot of things about the mind. 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is a lot about mind. It stores all the desires that I have. It's like a data feed. I told you it's like a software. All the data is fed into the software program. Yeah, I can carry it. I can use it in another computer. It produces the same thing. All my desires are being stored in the mind. So what happens at the time of death? I have so many desires pending. I have a next body ready to fulfill those desires. So I'm following that subtle body along with that, and I take this particular place in the womb which will help me fulfill my desires. How that exactly works will come on day 5. What are the other elements involved? Because it's not obviously only the mind which can take me to the next womb. Who knows? The mind doesn't know. The mind is dead. So who decides that I'm supposed to go to this womb or supposed to go to that womb? What are the factors which decide? That comes in karma theory. Okay? But this is clear that I move to the next body at the time of death. What happens to us after death? If I've drowned, that means the soul is wet? No. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha. The soul cannot be burnt, cannot be cut, cannot be fried, cannot be dried. Any weapon that you use, he tells Arjun, you cannot kill those people in this battlefield because they are spirit souls. What happens is only to the gross body, or at the most to the subtle body. Like if you're hurt and you're depressed, that's changes in your subtle body, in your mind, in your intelligence, in your ego. Your ego is hurt. But sometimes we say, ahamkar, that is there. Okay? But the soul cannot be touched, because it's eternal. Is the soul in every body the same? No. Every living entity is a different soul. Imagine in the palm of my hand, if there are like thousands of bacteria, each one of them is a separate living entity. The trees that we see. Sometimes they say, twins means the same soul is split into half, and there are theories like that. Krishna says, Eva natvem aham jatu nasam Natvam me janadipa. He says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor any of these kings, like they were talking in the battlefield, shall ever never cease to exist in the future. Means it's never possible that the soul is dead. They will always exist in some other form, in some other place, in some other gross body. Does the soul have a form? It's formless? I give the answer first. Does the soul have a form?
But how can it have a form?
How can it have a form?
It should be a solid body.
The only information we have about form is of material things. Yeah. Imagine, like this theory is often called Mayavad theory. They think that spiritual means no form, formless. Even they think God is formless. If this material form is giving me trouble, say it's -2. What is the opposite of -2? 0.
Plus 2.
Plus 2. Yeah. This material form, which is negative, which is going to die, it's like -2. Opposite of that, when we say formless, means 0. But ये minus का opposite तो +2 है. When I say Satchit Anand, I mean something which is not perishable. There could be something subtle, more subtle than all the gross elements that I see. There has to be some form existing. If I have a form now, even the spirit soul has a form. Remember, I was telling about the camera lens. Camera lens is like the eyes. The camera lens has its, the lens, the cord which connects it to the flash, whatever. All the parts of the camera. Can it click by itself? There has to be eyes which has to see. Even the spiritual, the spirit soul has a form. Just because we cannot see it does not mean it is 0. Do you understand what I am meaning? It's not 0. Opposite of -2 is +2. Opposite of material is not formless. It is spiritual. Even spiritual beings have their own form. They have their own spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence, spiritual eyes. As you said, your Tauji, he could see everything. How could he see if those gross eyes are lying there?
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
How could he see? How could she see the time?
It's just so what's his form?
What's its form? It's a spiritual form. It's Satchit Ananda. Something which cannot decay. Something which cannot... We'll be describing more of it in day 5.
So it occupies a lot of space also, right?
It does.
So there's so many souls in this world. Where do they go? What do they do?
Where do they go? Where do they fit? How do all these bacteria fit into my palm? If they are spirit souls. Soul gives form to matter. If I have to build this, like if I am giving a block of wood, I have to make a table out of it. Who can do it? The carpenter, who is a soul. A soul gives form to matter. Matter can move only if there is soul in it. A plant grows only if there is a soul in it. Correct? Where does the soul reside? We'll come to your thing, size ka part. Where does the soul reside? Ghar ka hai uska?
In the body.
In the body. Where in the body?
They say
Everywhere.
Heart?
They say.
In the knees?
No,
In the brain?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Every cell has a mind of its own. I mean, whatever.
The whole body is got a soul
Yeah.
because of the soul we are alive and we are.
There's a region, like in the heart, if I say, if they ask me, where do I say? I say this house. I'm not everywhere in the house. There's a certain room that belongs to me. But I can move about in the house. But I have a particular room. Where is the room of the soul? Is the region of the heart.
Yeah, that's what they say. Heart.
It's the region of the heart. Now it's region, it's not the heart. It's the region of the heart. Why am I using this region of the heart? Because if the heart is transplanted,
Exactly, I was saying that. Heart can be transplanted.
heart can be transplanted. Do you get my soul then? No. Heart is transplanted when that person has already left that room or left that physical body. Then his heart is taken, and so it's like a chair. When you exchange my chair, what do? I get up and I sit again.
So जिसको ट्रांसप्लांट किया है उसका सोल उसके अंदर चला गया.
You think so? No. So that person has already left, and that's why his heart can be transplanted.
Yeah.
Transplant तो जब होता है जब वो person is dead. I can't give my heart to someone. I mean, in love I can, but But it's not technically, if you see, I can't take out a heart unless that person has already gone, departed. I take that heart and when I place it into his, what happens?
His
soul is already
His soul takes that
heart.
heart.
So, but
It's like a chair or it's like a house. I get out of it when renovation is being
so
done.
which means that every spirit can be restored. I mean, if scientifically the hearts are being sort of chemically
Transplanted.
stored because for transplant के लिए use करने के लिए.
Soul can be restored. If that soul was really there, how can I take out his
That's what
heart?
I'm saying. Suppose the heart for the heart transplant, the person is dying to take out the heart and you restore it. Of course, for ऐसा तो होता नहीं जिस दिन निकाला उसी दिन लगाया. So they must be storing it for 10 days, 20 days, a month. Which means are we sort of
Storing
holding
the
on
soul?
the spirit for a month, 6 months, 20 days? Because if we transplant that heart, that person gets life again. जिसको भी transplant करने, which means technically you're transferring the
Can I
soul also.
transplant? Just a small question. Can I transplant a heart to a dead person?
No.
He was already alive.
So his soul is already there.
Yeah.
Because he's not dead.
It's like I take this chair away and I give you a new chair.
Yeah. But the
Get it?
soul is already there.
If I take hardware, software, electricity. मेरे को हार्डवेयर चेंज करना है तो फॉर नाउ
Yeah.
यस
है. अच्छा, there's a monkey.
monkey. I thought cockroach. Cockroach is something I can't stand.
Yeah, that was a different insect.
Insect चलेगा, cockroach, lizard, snakes नहीं चाहिए.
Okay, so but what is the proof that it lives only in the heart region? It can live anywhere, right? The mind.
Yeah,
Region
it's
means just to generalize.
generalized
area.
location,
Yeah,
like a room. In the room I am sitting. Now, I can go out of the room also.
Because
The room is not me.
I mean,
You know, often when I think about-
kidney transplant or anything, so अगर वो है तो भी still living ना, so the spirit is
Exactly.
kind
So
of
it
part of
can
the
live
body.
anywhere in the body, man.
Yeah, but it resides in the region of the heart. Because heart, what is the
Yeah,
proof?
what is the proof for that?
I'll give you a shloka. Actually, this मेरा ये it's there in that.
So
you're giving proof.
It has to be. It has to be. It has to be. Krishna says in Bhagwate Gita, Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. Hriddeshe means it's in the Hriday. The heart resides in the Hriday, in the region of the Hriday. But it's not like a marble which is stuck in the heart and can be removed and can be. You know, it's a subtle thing. Just like the mind, intelligence and ego. Where does the software stay in the hardware? Does it have any place?
Yeah, right.
How can the heart have any place? Where is the electricity living in the computer? It's independent of the computer. It can be applied to some other electronic too. So you get it?
Right.
It's a subtle thing. It's residing in the region of the heart. मतलब ये नहीं है.
It's there.
It's the point of
it's there.
connection, basically.
It's a point of connection. It's like a plug. A plug वहाँ पे है. So you can't ask me, plug वहाँ पे क्यों है? सब जगह क्यों नहीं है? Plug वहाँ पे है. Region of the heart. And Krishna says it's in the region of the heart. That's why I'm saying it's in the region of the heart. The proof is because the manufacturer is saying it.
The scriptures is saying it.
What is the size of the soul? Actually, even if you see scientifically, heart pumping is something which is most important. When the heart stops,
Everything's
brain dead का मतलब ये नहीं है कि person is dead.
absolutely.
But once the heart fails,
Yeah.
So then the person stops.
the
like
person stops.
everything else.
So that battery of life is in the
Heart.
heart. Yeah. What is the size of the soul? Size है. Form है तो size तो होना चाहिए. It's very tiny. It's 1/10,000 tip of the hair. What is that shlok? What is the Upanishad? Starts with S. Katha Upanishad also it is there. One more Upanishad is the name I forgot. Both of them say Keshagra. If you take the tip of the hair, Balagra, if you cut it, Keshagra means you cut it into Shata. You cut it into 1,000 parts. And you take that part and again cut it to 1,000 parts. That will be the size of the soul.
And that little thing has its own eyes and the whole spiritual.
Because it's a spiritual dimension. We think from a material dimension. Imagine, can people really see, like the scientists, have they really seen the atom?
No. Whatever.
Have they really seen the atom?
I know that it's like जो उसका measuring होता है microns.
Yeah, it's so tiny. Even material elements are made up of thousands of atoms. Even that atom the scientists have not seen. The proton, neutrons and everything is there even inside the atoms. There's activity. What is an atom bomb? When an atom is split. That's an atom bomb. It's got so much energy. Even a tiny atom. Atom bomb means the atom is split and that's when it explodes. So much energy in it. What about a spiritual element? Which is the father of all the material elements.
Yeah.
How much energy will it have? It's 1/10,000th tip of the hair. Even in an ant, even in a blue whale, which is the size of this room, even in an elephant, even in a banyan tree, everything that size. That's why Krishna calls it Ascharyavat. It's amazing. How can we see the soul? Abhi ye to scientific hai. How can we see the soul? Can we see the oil in the seeds? But oil is there. Can we see it? If I cut it, oil will come out. Sugar cane. Now there is a certain procedure. Can we see sugar in the sugar cane? It's like, if you break a sugar cane, usko aise khali karo to sugar girega. No. Ghee and milk, it's there. There is a certain procedure that we have to follow. If you're performing a biology experiment, would you use apparatus of physics?
No.
Or a chemistry apparatus like a litmus paper for, some physical parameters? No. I cannot measure how much rain is there with a thermometer. Even in material sciences, I am not interchanging the apparatus. Can I use material apparatus for spiritual things?
No.
It's a different science altogether. Yeah? So if my aim is to see the soul, the apparatus has to be spiritual apparatus. I cannot use material apparatus. Scientists are, they've opened every part of the body. Everyone is wondering, ठीक है, mind, intelligence, ego का थोड़ा हमारे पास ज्ञान है. Very little. How this mind works, it's very little information that the scientists have. But at least they know. How can they not find the soul? Because they're using material apparatus. Telescope, microscope. How can you use? What is the theory? We need to have a theory. If you have to find it with the theory of scriptures. What is the procedure? It's mantra meditation. Like I said, there's litmus paper, there's some procedure need to be performed. That procedure is mantra meditation. You will observe the soul. The conclusion is that yes, soul can be seen by spiritual practices. Throughout the scriptures, there are so many personalities who have seen their soul with these eyes. You want to see the soul?
I have some friends who could actually, while practicing all this, they could actually souls like of dead bodies, of dead people,
I'm not talking about ghosts with ethereal forms.
Okay.
I'm talking about a spirit soul. Talking about spirit soul. Yeah. Ghosts is ethereal form. They have another form.
Okay.
What are the advantages of knowing about the soul? क्या फायदा?
Experience the bliss and happiness.
You will experience that bliss, that happiness of what that soul is. Like right now I have experience of gross things, The water element in my body is wrong. That's why I get dehydration. If there's no digestion, means Agni is less. We have experience of the gross elements of our body. The subtle things, mentally, I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that. Right? Everything is there. But what about the soul? Once you know that I am this soul, how perfectly can you perform the roles in your life? Once that artist knows that I'm an artist, he'll perfectly perform the roles that he is doing. It's fun. It's easy to forgive. It becomes ecstatic. Your life becomes ecstatic because anything which comes in your life, it's only to the gross, pertaining to the gross body. Just yesterday we were doing the shloka, 5th chapter, verse number 8 and 9. Krishna is saying that a person is sleeping, eating, evacuating, seeing, touching, but he knows that these are actions of only the gross body and he knows that he is aloof from them. Right? Also, forgiveness becomes much more easier because you know that the insults are only to the body, it's not to the soul. This is only to the body. A person, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Krishna says any Shastra, even words are like weapons. They're like knives, they can stab you. Stab your emotions like anything. But they can only touch only up to the subtle body, not the spirit soul. Right? Forbearance, you can tolerate your destiny more easily, because you know that I am the spirit soul. And in day 5 we'll be discussing more about that how tolerance works. Quickly recap. Scriptures are like our mother. If we need to know about our father, we have to have faith on our mother. What does the mother say? I am not the body, I am the spirit soul. 3 bodies that I have is the spirit soul, spiritual body. The first original identity, my real and permanent identity, is the spirit soul. That is what is changing the bodies. Correct? That is Satchit Ananda, full of eternity, bliss, and Anand is bliss, Chit is knowledge. Then there is a gross body that I have, the outer covering, that is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Correct? And what is subtle body? The mind, intelligence, and ego. When the passenger, he has some desires, and then the chariot will move in that direction. The passenger is asleep, the senses do whatever they want to.
That's why they say desire is the purest form of God.
Huh?
Desire is like
Purest form of God.
desire is like a subtle prayer, you know. Constantly, aisa hona chahiye, waisa hona chahiye, aisa hona chahiye, waisa hona chahiye. Proof of existence of the soul. We had logical proof through introspection, even through the language that we use. It's logical. Scientific is NDE, OBE, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, and reincarnation theories that prove existence or human consciousness out of the gross body. Scriptural proof, Krishna speaks in 2nd chapter. In fact, there are 30 verses pertaining to the soul. FAQs, we discussed about the form of the soul, we discussed about the size of the soul, we discussed about the region it's living, heart, and many other things. And the last thing we did was, what is the advantages of knowing about the soul? 3 F's. It's fun, it's ecstatic,